Just how significant was the data breach at Okta earlier this year, and what actionable advice would executives from companies like Zoom, Netflix, Canva, and Slack offer if you could ask?
Brian Sozzi has those answers live from the NASDAQ with a special guest. Brian, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Frederick Harris, good to see you. Okta co-founder in real life. What is it, IRL?
That's exactly right. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, Brian.
Of course. Look, not a day goes by where we're not hearing more threats of cyber attacks coming out of Russia. From where you sit as a longtime person in cybersecurity, how severe are these threats?
Well, I think what you've seen is over the last decade, people have just moved so much critical information online, not just in the private sector, but in the public sector as well. That's why you're hearing the government talk a lot about it. I think the Biden administration has taken a great approach in just saying we need to up our level of security across the entire organization. For them, it's the government, all the sectors, and they're thinking about basic things, multi-factor authentication, just good hygiene. That's where they're starting, and I think it's great for the United States, obviously.
How bad is corporate hygiene? When you're out there trying to sell new accounts and get more business, so you never just leave these calls thinking, well, they're not a good place.
Sure. I mean, certainly a lot of organizations are still using legacy technology on premises, but a lot of people are seeing the value of the cloud. Return on investment, total cost of ownership, and just the time to get things up and running is so much quicker. They're saying, how can I find these modern security solutions? The biggest piece of advice I have for folks is just multi-factor authentication, two-factor, using it on all your key applications, both in business but also at home, on your email, on your bank accounts, and ensuring that you have the right level of security and in a very basic way.
Since the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out, have you seen a pickup in business? Have you seen a trend change at all?
I mean, I think that what you've seen for us in our business is over the last number of years, really, you've seen this acceleration of people doing three things. First of all, adopting hybrid IT. So they have legacy enterprise technology, but they're buying these new cloud products. Second of all, digital transformation. Everyone's trying to become a better interaction with their customers, their partners, their vendors, their suppliers. And then finally, the underpinnings of all this is zero trust security, where people are just trying to make sure the right people have access to the right information at the right time from the right place, and that they're continually monitoring this. Has this happened specifically an acceleration recently with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia? I think that the nation states, frankly, have just taken a much more interested view and approach to all of this because they see what the value and the power of all the data that's online is.
Okta was in the news recently. Clear this up first. Were you hacked, and what is the state of your offering right now?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Number one, the Okta service was not breached, to be very clear. Number two, the Okta product actually did what it was supposed to do and prevented a breach from happening. There was some confusion because we had a third-party call center that we used to use. Their network was not protected by Okta, it was protected by a competing product, and they were hacked. And it turned out that one of the customer support reps there was able to have one of the threat actors was looking over his shoulder, looking at a little bit of data for 25 minutes, so really a limited amount of time. There was a lot of confusion around there, so I really want to be very clear on that.
So no lasting impact?
No lasting impact at all. In fact, just this morning we published our final report concluding the investigation that we did in partnership with an independent third-party forensics organization that really certified it was very limited. It was one machine that was compromised. They were able to view information, just view information, on two specific customers for 25 minutes, one day back in January.
All right, well, in your spare time, you're not co-founding or co-foundering Okta. You wrote a book, Zero to IPO, over $1 trillion of actionable advice from the world's most successful entrepreneurs. I believe Elon gets a shout out here in somewhere. What do you make of his bid for Twitter?
Look, as an entrepreneur, I think it's exciting. I mean, Elon Musk is certainly a formidable entrepreneur. You look at everything that he's done across all these different industries. He's taken a very good approach, frankly, in engaging with this organization that, if you look at Twitter, the S&P 500 has outperformed Twitter stock 2-to-1 over the last 10 years since they've been public. Yeah. You would have made a lot more money just buying the index. So why is that? Well, it's an undervalued asset. If you think of something like Facebook, Meta, they have a graph of who you know, which is important. But if you look at Twitter, it's actually a graph of what you're interested in, what you're really involved in, who you want to follow, which is much more powerful. I think if Elon can get in there, he can separate the technology from that ads business and figure out a new way of monetizing that. I think it's going to be a huge opportunity. And frankly, the last thing I would say is I think there's a lot that has to be done around corporate governance. Clearly, that board has not been actively involved. They're sitting there watching what's happening over the years at Twitter, and I think there's a lot more that they could do.
You think Elon's the right person to own a company like that?
That I'm not sure on. I've never worked at an Elon Musk company. I heard that the culture can be a little bit aggressive, and it seems like there's already a lot of pushback from the folks at Twitter.
Yep. Real quick, one last one. What is your best advice you ever got from one of these entrepreneurs in the book?
Best advice I ever got is like time is your most precious resource. You just focus on the things that are most important to you and make sure you're delegating the things that are not key to your business.